Over the years, a lot of people have said a lot of dumb things about video games, gamers, and gaming culture. Let's point fingers and laugh at them, shall we? Here are 20 of the dumbest things ever said about video games. Number 1. Parents can read a book, watch a movie, or listen to a CD to discern if it is appropriate for their child. These violent video games, on the other hand, can contain up to 800 hours of footage with the most atrocious content often reserved for the highest levels and can be accessed only by advanced players after hours upon hours of progressive mastery. Leland Yee. 800 hours? Just who does Yee think he's trying to kid? Even the most clueless soccer mom would scoff, 800 hours? Horse pucky! If that were true, little Timmy wouldn't be bothering me for a new game every few weeks. Number 2. The increase in rapes can be attributed in large part to the playing out of sexual scenes in video games. Carol Lieberman. An increase in rapes, you say? Here's the government's rape statistics chart. You don't need to be Phoenix Wright to spot that contradiction. Number 3. Nobody shoots anybody in the face unless you're a hitman or a video gamer. Jack Thompson. Yeah, you knew Jack Thompson would end up on this list somewhere. Here's a fun fact. Not 4 months prior to this statement, Vice President Dick Cheney shot his hunting partner in the face. And Cheney never struck me as much of a gamer. But that would mean... Number 4. I think that video games are evil! Gaming is not a type of activity that provides any support to our daily lives, and all these consoles are just consuming electricity. Let's say we have about 3 billion people on this planet wasting their time, bringing no productivity at all. Add 10 billion more people, and what would happen to our planet? Video games are assisting the death of our planet. Yoshiyuki Tomino. Tomino is the creator of the long-running Mobile Suit Gundam series, a franchise that has spawned well over 100 of those evil, planet-killing video games. Number 5. In the book, Stop Teaching Our Kids to Kill, a call to action against TV, movie, and video game violence, former military science professor Dave Grossman argues that playing violent video games makes you a crack shot in real life, and marvels at the Heath High School shooter's ability to hit 8 kids with 8 shots by firing into a crowd of children. By comparison, the FBI says that the average experienced qualified law enforcement officer in the average shootout at an average range of 7 yards hits with less than 1 bullet in 5. Average shootout? Dave, this wasn't a shootout. No one was returning fire. And the shooter wasn't 7 yards away. He was in the same room as the prayer group he fired into. Let's try using applicable analogies, yeah? Number 6. So not only do violent video games make you a better shot in real life, they also transform gamers into cold, unfeeling killers. Counter-Strike gets you to kill with your heart rate lower. In fact, the FBI agent in Red Lake said that we could tell by the surveillance videos that the shooter's heart rate was not above 60. Jack Thompson. The Red Lake shooter was a hefty kid, so it's pretty unlikely his resting heart rate was anywhere near 60. Needless to say, it's impossible to determine someone's heart rate by looking at them, let alone watching security camera footage of them. And can you imagine how crummy the quality of a high school surveillance camera must be? If Thompson isn't flat out lying about this one, then someone in the FBI has one hell of a sense of humor. Number 7. Spending 2 hours on a game station is equivalent to taking a line of cocaine in the high it produces. Steve Pope. It's cheaper and healthier, too. Number 8. The issue of violent video games was brought to my attention by the mother of a 14-year-old young man, Stephen Pecura, who was stabbed repeatedly by a 17-year-old in Leicester in 2004. During the trial, it became clear that the assailant had become obsessed with a game called Manhunt. Keith Vaz. Vaz is well known for repeatedly blaming Manhunt for the 2004 murder of Stephen Pecura, despite the fact that the killer didn't own the game, and both the court and the police said that same year that it was not a contributing factor. This quote comes from September of 2012. Just how long is it going to take the facts to penetrate Vaz's thick skull? Number 9. It's called Mass Effect, and it allows its players, universally male no doubt, to engage in the most realistic sex acts ever conceived. One can custom design the shape, form, bodies, race, hairstyle, breast size of the images they wish to engage. And then watch in crystal clear LCD 54-inch screen HD clarity as the video game person's hump in every form, format, multiple gender-oriented possibility they could think of. And because of the digital chip age we live in, Mass Effect can be customized to sodomize whatever, whoever, however the game player wishes. With its over-the-net capabilities, virtual orgasmic rape is just the push of a button away. Kevin McCullough. Something tells me that Kevin has never actually played Mass Effect. Just a hunch, though. Number 10. Hey, remember Hot Coffee? That sex mini game in Grand Theft Auto San Andreas? So far, we have learned that the Hot Coffee modification is the work of a determined group of hackers who have gone to significant trouble to alter scenes in the official version of the game. In violation of the software user agreement, hackers created the Hot Coffee modification by disassembling and then combining, recompiling, and altering the game's source code. Since the hot coffee scenes cannot be created without intentional and significant technical modifications and reverse engineering of the game's source code, we are currently investigating ways that we can increase the security protection of the source code and prevent the game from being altered by the hot coffee modification. Rockstar. This is probably the dumbest thing Rockstar could have said to explain the hot coffee mod back in 2005. As soon as it was discovered that the sex minigame was part of San Andreas' code and that the modification merely enabled access to it, the feces really hit the fan. The ESRB re-rated the game adults only and revamped its submission policies. The video game industry as a whole took a pounding from the press and entered the crosshairs of every moral crusader in the country. And dipstick politicians and pundits were falling over themselves in misguided and disingenuous attempts to legislate violent video games. And all this over an unfinished sex scene that featured no nudity and could not be encountered or accessed unless you intentionally modified a game that was already rated mature for, among other things, strong sexual content. Remember, folks, honesty is the best policy. Number 11. But Grand Theft Auto is small potatoes. For there was something far more insidious out there poised to corrupt our children. Perhaps you've heard of it? A little game called The Sims 2. What makes this worse than the GTA San Andreas hot coffee scandal is that Sims 2 is rated T for teens by the ESRB, which means there have been absolutely no age restrictions at the point of sale of this game. Here is a game rated as appropriate for anyone 13 years of age or older, which contains simulated sexual intercourse and full frontal nudity, but which any kid of any age can walk into any Best Buy, Target, Walmart, GameStop, or Circuit City to buy without even a check buyer's ID prompt coming up on the point of sale device. Jack Thompson. Hey, you made the list again. Congratulations. Number 12. Back in 2003, an 18-year-old man murdered 3 people in an Alabama police station. After he was captured, he told police, "Life is like a video game. Everybody's got to die sometime." Not in a video game, we don't. Ignoring the ones in which you simply can't die, the goal of the vast majority of games is to not die. A totally possible endeavor. Check out all the perfect runs on YouTube if you don't believe me. Oh, you do have internet access on death row, right? Number 13. The video game industry gave the aforementioned killer a cranial menu that popped up in the blink of an eye in that police station, and that menu offered him the split-second decision to kill the officers, shoot them in the head, flee in a police car, just as Grand Theft Auto trained them to do. Jack Thompson. A cranial menu. A cranial menu. Old Jack Thompson may not have known law or civility or ethics, but the man sure knew how to sling an awesome soundbite. Number 14. Video games can never be art. Roger Ebert. Well, he certainly knew a lot about film. Number 15. Back in 2011, the Supreme Court shot down a California law that sought to restrict the sales of violent video games to minors. California also cannot show that the Act's restrictions meet the alleged substantial need of parents who wish to restrict their children's access to violent videos. Antonin Scalia. Violent videos. Alright, listen up, old people, especially those of you who are legislating or forming legal opinions on our favorite hobby. They're called video games. Not videos, video games. Videos is not an abbreviation, it's not slang, it's wrong, and you sound like you don't know what you're talking about when you call them that. Scalia made the videos mistake twice in the Brown v. EMA opinion and 3 times during oral arguments. He wasn't alone, though. Ginsburg, Breyer, and Roberts did it too. Number 16. The PS2 Dual Shock controller literally gives you a pleasurable jolt and vibration back into your hands every time you kill someone. When you take a car and you run over innocent virtual pedestrians in the game, you get a pleasurable vibration as your wheels go over their skulls. Jack Thompson. A pleasurable vibration. I'm afraid to ask exactly where he's holding his controller. Number 17. The previous quote came from a hearing in Louisiana where Thompson was arguing for a law that he authored, to restrict the sales of violent video games. First Amendment be damned. He also said this: Grand Theft Auto Vice City is not even speech of any kind. It is a device. Sure, by this logic, movies, music, and blog posts aren't speech either, but don't you see the genius at work here? If video games aren't speech, then they don't enjoy First Amendment protection, and they are immune from constitutional challenges. Ha ha! Unfortunately for Jack, at this point in time, 6 federal courts had already ruled that video games are protected speech, and Federal District Court Judge James Brady was truly less than impressed with this particular bit of legislation. He ruled Thompson's law unconstitutional and ordered the state to pay the video game industry $92,000 in legal fees. Way to go, Jack. Number 18. Now, to be fair, not every court has agreed that video games are speech. The court reviewed 4 different video games and found no conveyance of ideas, expression, or anything else that could possibly amount to speech. Stephen Limbaugh. Wow. 4 whole games were enough to rule that video games as an entire medium are not constitutionally protected speech. Pray tell, which 4 games did you review? Fear Effect, Doom, Mortal Kombat, Resident of Evil Creek. Seriously. Not only did Limbaugh, who, yes, is Rush Limbaugh's cousin if you were wondering, not only did he spell Mortal Kombat wrong, and technically Doom should be all caps, both games were nearly 10 years old at the time. And if Resident of Evil Creek was supposed to be Resident Evil, then it was over 5 years old. Regardless, Limbaugh's ruling was overturned 2 months later by the 8th Circuit Court of Appeals. Number 19. Video games are a bigger threat to American safety than guns. 67% of respondents to a 2013 political poll. Yep, not kidding. The specific question asked was, what do you think is a bigger safety threat in America, guns or violent video games? And 67% of respondents answered video games. Violent video games are a bigger safety threat than guns. Now before you facepalm, know this. 19% said they weren't sure. Number 20. Okay, last one. You ready for this? Microsoft will kill more youth than Hitler! LaRouche Political Action Committee. It always comes down to Godwin's Law, doesn't it? Here's the LaRouche logic. Young mass murderers, like the Northern Illinois University shooter, use the game Counter-Strike to train for their killing sprees. Counter-Strike was developed by Valve, which was founded by Gabe Newell and Mike Harrington, both of whom used to work for Microsoft. Now, Microsoft developed the Windows operating system and the Xbox video game console, both of which can be used to play Counter-Strike. So you see, Microsoft is facilitating the murder of millions of innocent people. Yeah, the Onion's got nothing on LaRouche.